On June 12, 2025, something went horribly wrong in the skies above Ahmedabad. Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, left Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel International Airport at 1:39 p.m., heading for London Gatwick. But within just 30 seconds of takeoff, it turned into one of the most tragic air crashes in India's history. The aircraft crashed into the BJ Medical College hostel area in Magani Nagar, killing 279 people, 241 of the 242 on board, and 38 people on the ground. Only one person survived, 40-year-old Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, who was sitting in seat 11A next to an emergency exit. He managed to escape with serious injuries while his brother sitting beside him didn't make it. His escape has led to a lot of questions. Was it just quick thinking, luck? Or did his seat near the exit really make all the difference? The aircraft had 230 passengers and 12 crew members on board. Among them were 169 Indian nationals, 53 British citizens, 7 Portuguese, and 1 Canadian. It was carrying close to 100 tons of fuel. But something happened seconds after liftoff. The plane climbed to just 625 feet before it began falling rapidly at a rate of 475 feet per minute. Then came the crash into the Royal Mess rooftop of the medical college hostel. The impact was massive, with flames and black smoke spreading over the area. Buildings named Atulyam 4, 3, and 2 were hit before the plane came to a stop near Atulyam 1. Over 300 firefighters, 60 fire trucks, and 20 ambulances rushed to the site. The first emergency call was logged at 1:45 p.m. Roads around the college were sealed off to help with rescue efforts. The aircraft involved was VTANB, a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, delivered to Air India in January 2014. It was 11 years old and had flown for over 41,000 hours. In the last year alone, it completed over 700 flights, including 25 on the Ahmedabad-London Gatwick route. It was powered by 2 General Electric G&X, 1B67 engines. The right engine was replaced in March 2025, while the left was last serviced in 2023 and was due for inspection in December 2025. Air India claimed the aircraft had a clean record. Just 2 hours before this flight, it had flown from Delhi to Ahmedabad, and passengers on that trip reported broken screens and problems with air conditioning. This raises the question, were those minor issues ignored signs of something more serious? The fire caused by the crash damaged large parts of the hostel, which is around 50 years old. Over 200 students had to be shifted to temporary housing, and the hostel may now need to be completely torn down, with demolition costs estimated at $2 million. The fuel that spilled and burned caused serious environmental damage. Thick smoke was seen for miles. Tests on the nearby soil and water later revealed high levels of kerosene, and now 500 workers are cleaning up nearly 10,000 tons of debris, 30% of which is toxic. The Gujarat government has already set aside $5 million to handle the cleanup. But people nearby are worried about what this pollution could mean for their health in the long run. The investigation is one of the biggest ever, involving India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, along with the US NTSB, UK's AAIB, Boeing, and GE Aerospace. It took 28 hours to recover the flight data recorder. The cockpit voice recorder was found on June 15th. A third device, which had footage from inside and outside the plane, was also discovered. This could help explain what happened in those final 33 seconds. A short preliminary report is expected soon, but a full investigation could take a year. Captain Sumit Sabharwal had over 8,200 flying hours, and First Officer Clive Kunder had 1,100. A Mayday call was made right after takeoff, but it was suddenly cut off. Investigators are looking into several possible causes: engine failure, flap issues, or even a bird strike. Ahmedabad Airport has recorded 462 bird strikes in the last 5 years, including 38 in 2022 to 2023. Another strange detail, the aircraft's ram air turbine, which is an emergency power system, was active when the crash happened. This only happens when both engines stop working, which is extremely rare for such a modern plane. These engines are controlled by a digital system called FADEC that constantly checks performance. So if there was a problem, why wasn't it flagged earlier? One theory is contaminated fuel, but early tests at the airport haven't found anything wrong. Some think the flaps may have been pulled in too soon, reducing lift. But the 787 is built with warning systems for this exact issue. There was no fire or smoke seen before the crash, which might support the engine failure theory. But the fact that everything fell apart in just 33 seconds is disturbing. There's also concern about maintenance. Air India uses outside contractors for some of its maintenance work. A report in 2024 revealed a 15% shortage of qualified aircraft technicians across India, including Air India. The VTANB underwent a major maintenance check in March 2025, but small everyday checks may have been rushed or incomplete due to staff shortages. That's worrying. The 787 model has had past problems too. Lithium battery fires grounded the whole fleet in 2011. Then, in 2022, issues with fuselage joints paused deliveries. A whistleblower in 2024 also raised alarms about poor assembly practices, which Boeing denied. But now those claims are being looked at again. After this crash, Boeing's stock fell nearly 9%. Among the victims were families, children, and wedding guests. Former Gujarat Chief Minister Vijay Rupani was also on the flight. On the ground, 38 people died, including 5 medical students who were eating lunch when the plane hit. More than 50 people in the hostel were burned and taken to hospitals. Many bodies were badly burned, making identification difficult. As of June 16th, only 47 victims had been officially identified, and 24 handed over to families. Forensic teams are now using dental records and DNA to confirm identities. It's a slow and painful process. Some unconfirmed social media posts suggest up to 75 deaths on the ground, but the official number remains 38. The crash of Air India Flight 171 has left a cloud of shock and unanswered questions hanging over the nation. Within seconds of takeoff from Ahmedabad, a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner carrying 242 people plunged into a college hostel, killing 279, including 38 on the ground. Only one man, seated near an emergency exit, survived. And that's just the beginning of what's becoming one of the most puzzling air disasters in recent memory. The response was fast, but stretched to the limit. Ahmedabad deployed 300 firefighters, 60 fire engines, and 20 water bowsers. The Army rushed in 130 personnel. A green corridor was created to move the injured. Relief centers popped up across cities. Tata Group offered 1 crore rupees to every victim's family and promised to rebuild the hostel. But some, like the survivor's family in Leicester, struggled to get basic help. One woman missed the flight by 10 minutes, only to call it fate. Emotions are running high. Religious places opened their doors for mourning. Schools held memorials. More than 400 families in Ahmedabad alone sought counseling. About 50 firefighters are now showing signs of PTSD. Air India's 17,000 employees were offered therapy, but 60% of its pilots now say they don't feel safe flying 787s. Domestic bookings are down 12%. Globally, with over 1,100 Dreamliners in service, that fear could grow. Financial aftershocks are spreading. Gujarat's $10 billion tourism industry has already lost 20% of its international traffic. Ahmedabad Airport, used by 11 million annually, slashed 15% of its flights. Air India's fleet expansion, worth $70 billion and including 70 more 787s, is now uncertain. They're considering switching to Airbus, and insurance claims may exceed $15 billion. Fares could rise, especially if more insurers step back. Lawsuits are stacking up. Over 1,000 lawyers are involved, with 120 cases against Boeing, 50 against GE, and 180 against Air India. The airline filed a $500 million claim against its maintenance partner. Families in the UK, Canada, and Australia are filing under international aviation laws. A petition for public hearings has 20,000 signatures, and calls for criminal charges are growing louder. Investigators are looking into the aircraft's flight control systems. The 787 had previous warnings: software glitches, battery fires, and structural flaws. If the 2023 software bug wasn't patched, an FADEC, which controls engine thrust, failed mid-takeoff, the pilots might have had just seconds. And that's exactly what happened. The ram air turbine deployed, which only happens during total power failure. Was it a mechanical failure, a sensor misread, or something else? Talk of sabotage is growing louder. Some claim contaminated fuel or even a cyber attack could be behind the crash. No birds were found at the scene, and the plane used the entire runway but couldn't climb properly. And yet, just hours earlier, it had flown in from Delhi with no major issue, aside from broken screens and faulty AC. Could those minor signs have hinted at something deeper? Urban planning failures made things worse. The airport is surrounded by densely packed buildings. The hostel was old, too close to the runway, and is now unlivable. Gujarat set aside 50 crore rupees for cleanup, but with 10,000 tons of debris and kerosene contamination in the soil, the environmental impact could linger. Over 1,000 people were evacuated, and 15 lawsuits have already been filed over chemical exposure. Globally, the pressure is building. The UK sent 10 investigators, the biggest foreign team. Canada, Australia, and the UAE are demanding faster victim identification and transparency. ICAO is now working on real-time engine monitoring rules. Airlines like United and Qatar Airways are running extra pilot training for takeoff emergencies. In India, a national inspection of wide-body aircraft is due by July 2025. Online, the story is exploding. Over 1.2 million posts under hashtag AI171. One passenger had a dream about a crash and canceled their ticket. Others recalled past Air India incidents. This is the airline's deadliest crash since 1985. And just when it was rebuilding under Tata's ownership, its reputation has taken another major hit. Flight 171 is now a topic in classrooms, courtrooms, and labs. Engineering students are analyzing takeoff data. Law schools are reviewing international claims. Psychologists are studying the trauma, and journalism classes are unpacking how the tragedy was reported. Families are organizing vigils, and a mural by a child showing angels around a plane has gone viral. Repatriating remains has become diplomatically sensitive, slowed by religious and legal complications. Countries are asking tough questions. Meanwhile, Air India has stopped using the flight number AI171. It's now AI159, and cut wide-body operations by 15%. Tech firms are building AI that can warn pilots earlier in real time. And Boeing, it's now under intense scrutiny. With more than 1,000 Dreamliners flying, this was the model's first fatal crash. The CEO skipped the Paris Air Show. Whistleblower claims from 2024 about manufacturing shortcuts are being re-examined. If investigators find a critical flaw, this may not just shake confidence in one aircraft, but the entire system behind it. Air India's efforts to rebuild under Tata are now hanging by a thread. Just when the airline was rolling out new branding and upgrading its fleet, the crash of Flight 171 shook everything. It's the worst disaster the airline has faced since 1985, and now fear is spreading fast. Pilots are requesting mental health checks, passengers are backing out of bookings, and the DGCA is rushing to inspect all 33 of Air India's Boeing 787s. Out of those, 24 passed, but if more problems are found, the whole fleet might be grounded, and that could bring operations to a standstill. Investigators are looking closely at the weather: 32 degrees Celsius and 70% humidity on June 12th, and at the aircraft's heavy weight, just shy of its 228-ton limit. If the plane's design is to blame, it won't just be Air India under the spotlight. Do let us know about your views in the comment section below, and for more such amazing videos, do subscribe to our channel.